Have you ever been asked to do something that seems so simple, only for it to unravel into something you never expected? Something that would change your perspective forever? Imagine this. You're just a regular person, going about your day, when a friend asks a favor. Can you feed my dog while I'm out of town for a bit? Simple enough, right? It's just a dog. But when you step inside her home, something's not quite right. And as you walk through the door, you're faced with something that shakes you to your core. What would you do if instead of a happy, playful dog, you found a little boy, her nephew, clinging to life, barely breathing, all alone? No one else around, no adults, nothing but silence, and a terrifying reality you didn't sign up for. This is the story of how one simple favor turned into a nightmare I could never have imagined. A story that made me question everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted. I've noticed only 98% of you who watch haven't subscribed. Come on guys, show some love and support. Thanks a bunch to those who have already subscribed. It started on a regular Thursday morning. I was sitting in my living room scrolling through my phone, trying to shake off the sleepiness of an early day. That's when I got the message from my friend, Sarah. Hey, can you do me a huge favor? I'm heading out of town for a few days and I need someone to take care of my dog, Max. He's super chill, just needs some food and water. I'll leave everything in the kitchen for you. Will you be able to help? Now we've been friends for years, of course I agreed. Feeding a dog, no big deal. I've done it 100 times. So I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and headed to Sarah's place. Her house wasn't far, just a 10-minute drive. When I arrived, everything seemed normal at first glance. The yard was quiet. Max's favorite spot in the sun empty, as if he'd already gone inside for a nap. But as I approached the door, a chill ran down my spine, like something was off. I shook it off. Maybe I'm just overthinking, I muttered to myself. I knocked on the door. No answer. It was unusual since Sarah was usually quick to greet me. So I turned the knob and walked in, figuring she was probably upstairs getting ready or doing something else. The house was eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of a fan somewhere in the back. I called out, "Sarah? Max?" No response. I set the dog food down and wandered a little further into the house. But as I passed the hallway, that's when I saw it. The door to the small bedroom at the end of the hall was cracked open. My curiosity got the better of me. I walked toward it, knocked softly, and then slowly pushed the door open. What I saw inside made my stomach turn. Lying on the bed, barely conscious, was a small boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. His face was pale, lips a strange shade of blue. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, barely enough to keep him alive. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. His body was thin, fragile, and what struck me the most, the way his eyes seemed to flicker open just enough to meet mine before they closed again, as if he was too weak to even stay awake. I froze, my heart racing. I didn't know what to do first. My mind was spinning. Who was this kid? What was he doing here? In Sarah's house, in this condition? That's when I noticed the faint smell of something. I couldn't place it at first, but as I moved closer, it hit me. Urine, sweat, and something worse. This room, this whole house, wasn't just neglected, it was abandoned. Panic started to set in. I rushed to the boy's side, kneeling next to him, gently shaking his shoulder, hoping for some response. But it was clear. He wasn't just sick, he was in a state of emergency. His skin was cold to the touch, his breathing labored. I needed help. I scrambled for my phone and dialed 911. "Please, help! There's a child, he's dying," I said through trembling hands, my voice rising in panic. The operator kept me calm while I waited for the ambulance to arrive. But the minutes felt like hours. The boy's breathing was getting worse. I stayed with him, holding his hand, trying to keep him conscious, whispering reassurances I wasn't sure he could even hear. When the paramedics finally burst through the door, I stepped back, allowing them to work. They didn't say much, but their faces told me everything I needed to know. They didn't look hopeful. The last thing I heard before they rushed him out the door was one of the paramedics muttering something about needing to stabilize him before it was too late. The next few days were a blur. The news spread quickly. Sarah's nephew, Jacob, had been in critical condition. The doctors didn't know if he would make it. But what disturbed me even more than his condition was the fact that he'd been left like that, alone, without anyone to care for him. I called Sarah multiple times, but she didn't respond. It wasn't until a week later, when she finally came back to town, that I saw her again. She walked into her house looking disheveled, but completely unaware of what had transpired. "Hey, thanks for feeding Max. He's a good boy, isn't he?" I stood there shocked. Did she really not know what happened to her nephew? Did she not care? I asked, "Sarah, where's Jacob? What happened to him?" She blinked at me, confused. "Jacob? He's with his mom. I didn't even know you'd seen him." My heart sank. How could she not know? How could she have left him there in that condition for so long? The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't a simple mistake. Jacob had been neglected, and Sarah had either been completely blind to it or didn't care enough to see it. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I contacted Child Protective Services, and things began to unravel. It turned out Jacob's mother was struggling with her own issues and had been unable or unwilling to take care of him properly. The authorities uncovered a history of neglect and abuse. But the most heartbreaking part? Sarah was fully aware of the situation, and yet she had chosen to ignore it. The guilt weighed heavily on me. I should have asked more questions. I should have known something wasn't right when I first stepped into that house. But the fact was, I didn't. I was just helping a friend, doing a favor. And because of that, a child almost died. Jacob is recovering now, thankfully, but it's going to be a long road for him. And every day I wonder what could have been done differently. We live in a world where we trust people we think we know. But sometimes the truth is darker than we could ever imagine. Neglect, abuse, and indifference can happen behind closed doors, often without us even realizing it. And sometimes when we least expect it, we're put in a position to make a choice that could change everything. So next time someone asks you for a simple favor, think twice. You might just find yourself in the middle of a story you didn't sign up for. Thank you for listening to my story today. I hope it makes you think about the people in your life a little differently. Before you go, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever found yourself in a situation like this? Let's talk about it. And remember, sometimes doing a good deed can uncover a much deeper truth.